Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you follow us today to join us for the second session of the UNWTO Month of Tourism and African Gastronomy. It's a great pleasure to see you again. If you joined us in the first session last week, for those who did not, this is a new initiative that UNWTO has launched to coincide with the fact that we're celebrating on the 25th of May Africa Day. We've decided to dedicate this month to how can we enhance the value of gastronomy as one of the assets for tourism development in Africa. The session today is dedicated for the links of product and tourism from farm to table. How can we build better linkages in the value chain? And we have a fantastic panel with us that will be moderated by my colleague, the director of the regional program for Africa, Elsia. Before I leave you with Elsia for the introductory remarks, I would just like to highlight that we have published recently a book which will take you to tour African gastronomy. It's available on the UNWTO website, 39 countries, 39 recipes, where you can master the fantastic products of Africa and learn more about African gastronomy. Also to leave you with a note that we will continue the sessions in the coming weeks, dedicated to topics such as talent development and education, how can gastronomy help to build a stronger image of Africa, and also women empowerment. So we count that you can join us during this month, and it's really a pleasure to be able to dedicate time and expertise and exchange views on this important topic. With that said, I'll pass the floor to my colleague Elsia Grancourt, who will welcome you all and proceed with the debate with the fantastic team that we have today. Elsia, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Sandra, and a very good morning, good afternoon, good evening to all of you who has tuned in, whether it is for the first time joining this series or whether you have joined us on the last session. I am pleased to welcome you all. And as Sandra mentioned, we have a very dynamic group today to lead this discussion when we talk about from the farm to the table, looking at the entire value chain of the end product that the chef puts it in such an artistic way when it reaches our plate. So I will, in a brief moment, introduce our panelists for today, but just wanted to reflect also that we know that gastronomy reflects our culture, our heritage, and our traditions from all across the different regions. It is also an important protector of our heritage, and the sector also helps to create opportunities, as we know, such as jobs, and notably we see more and more chefs in the rural areas also coming forward with various ways of promoting the sustainability of this sector. And as Sandra mentioned, this forms part of a bigger work that we've been doing at the UNWTO Africa Department in our Agenda for Africa, whereby we are bringing forward this topic, advocating for brand Africa. And gastronomy is really a good way to promote what we have on the continent. And in addition to what Sandra mentioned in regards to the book, we've also conducted various interviews with the support of Voyage Afrique with the different chefs. And also on our website, you can tune in to the different podcasts that are there and learn more about not only the chefs that are featured in the book, but also about the different recipes that you can enjoy once you visit Africa. And from the topics that was addressed last week, today, as I mentioned, we're going to look at the value chain from where we pick up the vegetables from the farm, the processes it go through, and until reaching the table. And with this, we have 4 chefs and 1 participant from FAO. I will start by just briefly introducing our panelists. We have Chef Murugan Kupan. He is the executive chef at the Chandrani Beachcomber Resort and Spa in Mauritius, and he's also featured in our book. He's got years of experience in the tourism industry and has always been engaged also in the training part of it, training the young chefs in order to upgrade the level of culinary education. He's also the president of the Chefs Association, Mauritian Chef Association, and has participated in many local and international culinary competitions. So welcome, Chef Murugan. We also have Chef Samira, who has joined us she's a Nigerian chef, a restaurant consultant who also participated in our book. And as I've mentioned, if you go on our website, on each page, you will see the chefs that are featured. Samira has a first degree in business administration, but interestingly, she pursued her passion by attending culinary school at the International Center of Culinary Arts in Dubai, where she has worked also for some time. And as a restaurant consultant, she has consulted for big corporation like Transcorp Hilton Abuja, and also held different positions of head chef in various restaurants in Lagos and Abuja. So welcome, Chef Samira. And joining us as well from FAO is Sibyl Slattery. She's the project coordinator, Food and Nutrition Division, Market Linkage and Value Chain Group at the Food and Agricultural Organization. She's an agricultural engineer. She's graduated from the École Agro Campus West, and she's currently in charge of project development of geographical indications for sustainable healthy diets in FAO. She's also responsible in her capacity as coordinator of FAO's project on geographical indications, where she has actively contributed to the development of the action plan to implement Africa's continental strategy on geographical indications, and has provided technical support on the matter to various countries, including Benin, Mozambique, Senegal, and Niger. And we will be very pleased to hear further from you, Sibyl, on this topic as we start our discussion later. And we also have Chef Binta, who's been promoting the Fulani kitchen. She's born and raised in Freetown, Sierra Leone, to first generation Sierra Leonean Fulani of Ghanaian descent, and she describes herself as a modern nomadic chef. By creating traditional settings and discussing Fulani culture and serving ancient grains, indigenous spices, and other exciting West African ingredients in an interactive way, Binta triggers all the senses, and I'm sure today she will take us all around the world with this. She's also an ambassador for Fulani cuisine, and she promotes fonio, an ancient and super grain traditionally grown and consumed in West Africa. So we can see already there's a good mix of spices, ingredients at the table for our discussion today. So we will kick off with questions to the chef. And I will address you, Chef Murugan. If you can share with us a little bit what you think is, what role can African chefs play in making the food system a little bit more environmentally sustainable?
Yes, thank you. Sure, I think we chefs, we have a tremendous role to play to bring to the environment that we call today sustainable food. I think we chefs, lots of people like scientists, like food manufacturers, farmers, fishermen should work together. We have a lot to do, a lot we can do together for a better planning to plan our cultivation, to plan how much we will produce, how we will produce, which is the authorized and how many chemicals we will play in it, so that at the end, we, the chef, are having something which is good. When we talk about food, we are talking about something good to eat, healthy, safe, and safe also for the environment. So we are not producing a lot that we can't, that we will not be able to consume it. That's, I think it's very important, one aspect. The second aspect, we should encourage all our chefs, all restaurants, hotels, to use local product, to use seasonal product, very important, not only local, but seasonal, and to maximize the use when it's the season of certain vegetable and fruit and fruits. How we can preserve it for after the season, we can use it, we have it already. So that's also, we chefs, we should think about it. We have many ways like dehydration, conservative, sous vide, a lot of ways we can do it. And also train our staff to use technologies to that we are lucky to have it today. We should know how to use it so we can get a better production and keep all the nutritional value in this food when we are cooking. That's also very important. How to cook the food? Today, it's understand we are using cells, animal cells and plant cells. How to keep it intact after the cooking, that it's all contain all the nutritional value we are looking for. Thank you.
Thank you, Chef. I think, yes, we now look beyond just the chef preparing the food for us. We know that you're also involved in the entire process in leading to the outcome that you put to the table. And it's interesting to see that more and more chefs are getting more involved in this process as well. Chef Samira, would you want to add something also in this regard on this point as to what our own chefs, the role that they can play in really making the food system more environmentally sustainable?
Hi, everyone. I feel like working together with the farmers, like making sure that we get fresh products, organic products, other products. So we have to work hand in hand with the farmers, make sure that the people producing it are giving it to us as fresh as possible. And, you know, breaking the barriers of instead of us getting it from the restaurant, from the, supermarket and the, instead of us getting it from like the supermarket, meaning that they've added some maybe chemicals in there to preserve it. So that means the food won't be as healthy as getting it right directly from the farm. So working together with the farmers, making sure that, okay, they tell us what they're producing, the quantity, so we plan hand in hand with what we're serving to our customers and everything. So working very close with the customers, with the farmers, will help us achieve getting healthy food and organic food.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I believe so. More and more people are looking at the different practices of how before we really seeing the end product on the table, what are the different practices that the farmers themselves are using, the different techniques, whether it's fully organic or you have all the pesticides, chemicals in this. I think more and more, when we look at it, everybody is becoming more conscious, and it's important that we are also aware of what is the process before we get all these nice dishes on the table in front of us, like I mentioned earlier. Sibyl, maybe what can you share with us what are some of the challenges that you've experienced in your line of work in connecting the micro and small producers to the main value chain network in order to benefit from the tourism activities?
Good morning to all. I'm very pleased to participate at this webinar. First, I just would like to remind what GI is and the situation in Africa. A geographical indication is a sign which is used on a product that have specific qualities and characteristics or reputation due to their geographical origin. These characteristics are due to natural factors such as soil or climate, or human factor as know-how. And a successful GI has an economic and social and environmental impact, because GI first can prevent the delocalization of the production. It brings added value to all the stakeholders of the value chain, including the small producers, if it is well done. It maintains or creates jobs and contribute to the preservation of environment and biodiversity, and contribute to safe, diversified, and healthy diet. In Africa, for the moment, there are only 190 GIs for example, in Asia, there is 3,400, and in Europe, 3,900 GIs. Africa has a huge stock of products who are potential GIs. And African Union has prepared a continental strategy for GIs in Africa, which was endorsed at political level in October 2017. We are in the phase of implementing the continental strategy. I will mention a few GIs which have been registered in the sub-Saharan Africa: the Penja pepper, the Oku honey in Cameroon, the Ziama Macenta coffee in Guinea, the Cabrito di Tete in Mozambique, and the Plateau d'Alada pineapple in Benin. For the moment, there is no data on the impact on GIs on tourism in Africa sub-Saharan. But we have some example in Europe or in North Africa. For example, in Morocco, there is a festival for the saffron of Talwin, which is organized every year around the month of November under the patronage of the Ministry of Agriculture. It can bring together hundreds of people. In France, in September, October, there is a festival for the Espelette paper. And one can mention also the Route des Vins in France, which are a circuit which exists now for all the French vineyards. These roads allow a combination of discovery in enology, gastronomy, landscape, and patrimony. Every year, nearly 7.5 million of persons tour on this road. And the impacts are indeed very positive for the hotels, the restaurants, the rentals, the sales of agricultural and artisanal products. So the link of GIs with agronomy is very evident. The chef can use the GIs in their recipes. For example, there is a famous chef in Cameroon, Pascal Tefac, who travels to promote the recipes with all the Cameroonese species, and especially, of course, the Penja pepper. He created also in Douala a cooking school where the utilization of the local products in the recipes are taught, indeed. Furthermore, and I will end there, usually the places where are produced the GIs have beautiful landscapes. One feels like going to discover the places where the Penja pepper, the Oku honey, the Ziama Macenta coffee are produced. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sibyl, for explaining to us more in detail about the geographical indications. I think this really shows us that around the topic of gastronomy, there's a lot of things that can be organized and created to promote where the food that we are consuming are coming from, the history behind, the technology, as the chef was mentioning earlier, that is put behind all of this. And it's important more and more to educate our people in general in regards to these key things such as the geographical indications. I was just looking up a little bit to understand more, because it's also something that is, well, it's not new, it's just the context when you explain it, because I see more known examples are probably more in regards to the cheese and the different beverages that I see also can have the GIs as well. But it's interesting to see that we have advanced in this regard in some countries in the Africa region. And I think more effort, I'm sure, is being done in regards to this. And it's interesting to have the opportunity to promote it so that countries are aware, as well as the different chefs. If you allow me, I may move to the next, our next contributor today, Chef Binta, who, as I mentioned earlier, she's known as our Fonio ambassador. So can you tell us a little bit more about Fonio and what are the other local cereals and grains that are also called as superfoods, and how can they could be answers to food securities and issues of climate changes and challenges? Chef Binta?
Yes, thank you. I'm someone who is very passionate about promoting local ingredients and especially grains, because for me, I had a first-hand experience going through civil war in Sierra Leone and moving to a small village, coming from a large family. Fonio was one of the ways we could sustain ourselves during those days. So for me, becoming a chef and then having a platform, it was very important for me to start sharing the importance of it. And it's not just fonio, because fonio is one superfood, which is very good for our environment also. It's highly nutritious. And another one is also millet, because fonio is part of the millet family. And one thing I realized in Ghana so far, in Africa in general, we don't use our ingredients enough. We have little knowledge, but we also don't exploit. Most of these superfoods or these recipes, they are stuck in one way. So most people don't know how to develop new recipes using the same ingredients. And for me, it was important as a chef for me to utilize them and also shed more light on how to use these ingredients. Fonio is one thing that I think we should tap into more. Millet also is another one. Baobab is another. Something called dawa dawa, which is locust bean. It's called dawa dawa in Ghana. Different places they call it differently, but it's basically just locust bean. It's also a superfood. And most of these things, the important thing about it, when we are thinking, it doesn't need a fertile soil to grow. It can grow in a dry area. It uses less water. It can be harvested in a short period of time. So it's very important that people can start focusing on ingredients like this. You go to the market, for me, one thing I find very sad is that you find rice all over the place, and all of these things are from China, but you could hardly find fonio. So I feel like we should also focus on yield, more yield, because for now it's very expensive. Not everyone can really afford fonio, and it's not available.
Chef,
in the market.
Chef, if I may add
Thank
to
you.
that, you do say that, yeah, you see alternatives that you feel we should be focusing more on what we have locally that is probably more nutrient as well. But what do you feel needs to be done to create more of that awareness? What are some of the thoughts that you've reflected on in regards to this?
One thing first, I believe we all should grow our own food. it doesn't have to be left with just the farmers. We start
looking away.
and it can tackle all the problems we have. And another thing also, I think it's time schools, I think it's time schools start adding this as part of their programs, like nursery, elementary schools. Agriculture is very important, and teaching kids the importance of food and growing your own food and how important it is. It drives, it's the engine for us. I think it's very important. You start young from the ground. We have to start all the way from the ground top. And as chefs also, it's important to share more recipes, show people how to use these ingredients in a fun way, ways that is more appealing. Because I believe healthy food or just food in general should be how it looks, it's about how it tastes. So as chefs with our platforms, if we can create different recipes and show people how they can enjoy these ingredients without spending so much money, I think it's very important. It will go a very long way.
Thank you, Chef. I think your connection is not that stable, but we captured the gist of your response, which maybe it will lead me to go back to Sybil in regards to her response, because I see also in the chat.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we did. It was a little bit fragmented, but I think we got the gist of your point. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And I will lead in your response to go back to Sybil, because I see somebody also in the chat has asked, does the producers are well aware about the possibility to present their product to be submitted as GI? This is a question that is coming from the audience, Sybil. Do you want to elaborate a little bit on this?
Sure. Thank you very much. Well, it depends where, because it is very necessary to raise awareness about the possibility for some products to register as GIs. Of course, those products must have characteristics which are linked to the geographical indication. The advantage of GIs are quite important. They allow to struggle against fraud. I mean, when there is a GI on a product, people who live outside the area of the GI, they can't sell their product with the same name, or they can be attacked in justice and things like that. And it's why we think that GIs can contribute to preserve the production in the area, the traditional area production, which is very important. It preserves the local production and the jobs, and with the development, because usually the GIs can bring added value to the value chain. So it can then create, it empowers the producers, and then it can either maintain or even create jobs. So we think that it's a good tool for the development, for the territorial development. Mm-hmm. But one has to have raise awareness. It takes a long time.
Mm. No, I totally agree, because also it goes back to what Chef just told us. It's the awareness and the education, especially what she talked about. For people that are in that space, they are aware, but for the consumers as well, which more and more, they are looking at the history, the background that comes with it. So raising more awareness, we can conclude on that is much more needed, and also to educate a little bit more, as Chef mentioned, in regards to how we can use our own local produce. I mean, we used to do that in the past. If we talk to our grandparents, all of them, they will tell us. But then, of course, with the changes that comes, sometimes we tend to forget, but I think everybody's now going a little bit back, taking a step back and looking at what can be done in this regard. So Chef Murugan, let me come back to you. Since we're talking about these indigenous knowledge as well as traditional food, how do you see this, as your colleague Chef mentioned earlier, to be used as sustainable innovations going forward in the culinary section of the gastronomy?
Yes, for me, the indigenous knowledge, firstly, refers to the understanding, skills, and philosophies developed by societies with long histories of interaction with the national surrounding. They give a new life to many products, like the leftover toast, leftover bread was converted into breadcrumb. Lots of conservative techniques have been developed. There was no refrigerators, no fridge at certain time. So lots of innovation techniques today who are contributed in our recipes, like smoke, like pickles, like all these things. A lot of recipes like this to preserve food, to conserve food for later use. So that's really innovation at their time. The equipment they use. Today we are talking about technologies, but the technologies come from them. They invented a lot of equipment at the time without electricity, without machine, that they were doing curry paste, lots of things they developed that today scientists are developing into more technologies. But the idea, the innovation come from our histories. The way they use lots of things in the vegetable, like how to use the banana peel to make curries, how to make in the coconut, how to use the coconut for decoration, for lots of things they have tried to maximize the use in every product. I think they were very innovative, very creative, how we can maximize things. And at that time, every people have a small garden at in their yard, sharing with neighbors exists at that period of time. So having your own small garden give you a good product. Sure, there was no chemicals, nothing in it. It was healthy, and you share it with your neighbors. You're having other vegetables that you don't have at your place. So I think that was, and all the leftovers was making compost of it. So to benefit their plant again. So everything was used. Thank you.
And rightly, as you said, there is a saying, we said nothing goes to waste. So we try to see how we can make use of the entire vegetable in a good way, not just in having the dinner plate, the food prepared, but what we can do with the waste as well that goes back into the cycle. I think this is very interesting. Chef Samira, would you want to add your reflections on this point as well in regards to the indigenous knowledge that we are talking about here on the traditional foods and how this can be used as sustainably innovations? We cannot hear you, Chef. Just unmute your...
Yes, I would like to mention some things. Right now, people in Nigeria, we're already like trying to use more of our local food to produce food. For instance, now, you know, the basil leaf, we don't grow basil here in Nigeria, but we use like, instead of using a basil leaf to make a pesto, we try to use like the ephedrine leaf that we grow naturally at our backyard to produce some produce. And also,
We cannot hear you. Chef Samira, are you still there? We seem to have lost Chef Samira, but we can come back. We can come back to her. If the technical team could see with her, we can move on to address another question and then come back to her. Maybe I go back to Chef Binta, because you're also very passionate about this point. So what ways to promote these traditionally grown grains? I know you mentioned the importance of creating the awareness, of going back to the schools, but what else can you tell us about? What are the different ways to promote it?
I believe one of the ways is to go back to it, document this. One thing I'm very passionate about is documenting these recipes, because I feel like we are losing the whole way so much. The world is moving so fast. We are all doing grab and go. Really taking a pause and being intentional about how we look at food, how we prepare our food, the culture about getting into the kitchen and cooking your food from scratch and understanding your ingredients is very important. For me, one thing I tried to cut out about 3 years ago was, because if you look at the actual, a lot of it is influenced, when it comes to flavor building, a lot of it is influenced by things like Maggi, like ways to just make food taste good quick without looking at building the flavors. So for me, I really hope that we can go back to the base, learning our ingredients from the keepers of our authentic recipes, making time to cook our own food, being intentional about how we handle. One thing I learned from my tribe, because I come from the largest nomadic tribe in Africa, they are called the Fulani. Most of our ingredients are influenced by our lifestyle, because we are people on the go. We are nomads, so we are always on the go. So whenever we harvest, for us not to waste food, we sun dry everything, literally to meat. Even when we slaughter a cow, we sun dry our beef, and it doesn't affect the taste. So food waste is one thing. How we handle our ingredients by preserving it, being intentional at home. If we use bottles, we have food scraps. Have two ways you split that. Compost. All your food waste, the scraps from the food, you can compost that. Have a different place you keep that and do your compost at home. Your bottles, recycle them. The bags you use that you go to the shopping mall or the farmer's market, use something that you can reuse, upcycle, recycle. I think it's very important, and just learning our ingredients, honestly, and also taking our farmers on this journey. It's very important to take them with us as we grow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I totally agree with you. We shouldn't wait for our ingredients. Like now we've just seen couscous has been listed as an intangible cultural heritage by UNESCO. It's a big encouragement, but I think, as you said, there are more things that can be done. It's just a matter of creating that awareness and being more conscious. I think this whole situation that we are going through with this pandemic has been making a lot of us realize what are the basic things we can go back to. And you see a lot of countries all around encouraging that we go back to at least planting our own little vegetables and trying to make use in entirety of all the different vegetables that we have. I think it's been a good time to reflect on these situations that we are currently going through. So thank you for bringing that point up as well. Do we still have Chef Samira? Otherwise, we can go back to Sibyl to give us her perspective, maybe on, because I saw also from your profile, you're looking a bit at the different policies. So how do you think that the tourism policies can continue to foster the local food linkages that we are talking about today with, for example, in the tourism space, with all the high-end accommodation that exists, but also at the same time, it's a lengthy question to involve also youth in all this tourism development. How do you share with us your reflection on this point?
Thank you. First, I would say that geographical indication or local products are really a tool for tourism. Well, maybe geographical indication is, as it has more reputation, it interests or it can attract more. But the link of geographical indication with gastronomy is evident. I mean, the restaurants, the chef can use those products and in their recipes, and so this is the first thing. Then, as we saw in in North Africa or in Europe, it is for sure touristic geographical indications are really a very good. I don't have the word in English. In French, it's atout. It's a very favorable factor for tourism. I mean, for example, la route des vins, it makes live very well the hotels, rentals, the restaurants, and then it can favorize the sale of agricultural or artisanal products. But I would end in saying that we must be careful. GIs are a great opportunity for tourism, but it is important in the same way to conceive sustainable tourism, which does not spoil or destroy the cultures, the habitat, and the landscape where the products are cultivated. Well, this is what I can say.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I think what is important also here is that the consumer more and more is very savvy about these situations. They know, and it's also a matter of making sure that the destination where they are visiting, that the right framework, the right processes are being done, so that it's just like when you say somebody is going to travel, but they want to know in regards to the destination where they are arriving, if they are practicing what we call sustainable tourism development. And that will also go into the culinary part of it, because if they are aware, they will look for it. And I think it's as we were saying at the beginning, the importance is to continue to create this awareness. I'm looking at some of the chats that are coming. One comment I see is that saying we have to build an institute where we can find African food literature, agronomy works, food references, patrimony in the continent, etc. Would anybody want to maybe make a comment? One of the chefs, maybe? Would you like to make a comment on this? Do you share this view? Do we have it? Do you think we should go towards this? Chef Murugan.
Yes, I think it's a good comment. It's very important. I don't know if all the countries in Africa, we do have it, but it's very important that we have it. Our food literacy, where we come from, and promote our cultural food in every country, it's very, very important. And also have the product knowledge. We may not know by heart a recipe, but if we know our product, we can develop a lot of recipe, a good recipe, healthy recipe for it. So the product knowledge, food culture, that's all is very important. And having trained chefs, that's also, we are in Mauritius, we are spending quite a lot on training to go more through the why of everything. Why are we using this technique and not other techniques? So we will gain on productivity. We will gain at the end product. The food is healthy. It's looking great. Good texture, good sauce, everything, and keep all the nutritional value. So all this will be through well-trained with the right institution. Very important.
As you say, yes, the chefs themselves, they have to be aware, not just about the techniques of cooking, but
I also think that movement also, local community with the farmers, doing the work, doing the research, documenting, sharing knowledge, enlightening people. We have one in Ghana here called the Ghana Food Movement, where like we go to farmers market, talk to people, encourage more people, because the work also is very important.
Chef Binta? Unfortunately, today we have some challenges with the connection. Chef Binta, can you just retake the last point of your comments? Because we lost you.
So yes, I was saying it's very important to have movements that are really doing the work, liaising with farmers, encouraging schools to have it part of their programs, being involved in everything. We have one in Ghana called the Ghana Food Movement, where like when they are doing farmers markets, we just hijack the place, kind of, and then just educate more people. They also work with restaurants, go to restaurants, encourage them to use ingredients. Because most of these people, they don't know how to use these ingredients. So we show up, we start the ingredients, sometimes to recipes, or also we just try to see what they can come up with the ingredients. So throwing ingredients on people, encouraging them, having a movement that is very practical, I think is important.
Thank you. Sibyl, is there anything from your organization that is being done to help with these kind of information that is sitting somewhere that can be referenced to? What does FAO have to say on this point?
Well, we organize some raise awareness session, training session in many parts of the world, and it's a continental strategy in the action plan to implement the continental strategy for GIs in Africa. There is a large output which is consecrated to the training and raising awareness. So I agree completely. And I saw a movie, I will send you the link. It's a chef in Cameroon. It's Pascal, I don't know if you know him. It's Pascal, anyway, I will find his name. And he has, so first the movie shows him going to Paris and Berlin and Geneva and London to promote the spaces of Cameroon and the Peja paper. And he has created a school, a culinary school in Douala. What I wanted to add that I didn't say before is as GIs or local products can constitute such an help for tourism, maybe the tourist sector could help the Association for Protection and Promotion of GIs to organize some fairs, or it could be an exchange, because those people, those associations, at first they don't have a lot of money, and so as GIs can have really an interesting impact for tourism, maybe at the beginning, tourist sector could help them to organize some events, and they would profit from it.
Mm-hmm. I think a lot of destinations, as they go about doing their promotion, they use, I think, two core elements, which is food and music. So if they continue with this, then definitely, as you say, it helps to create the awareness. And that is why our Secretary General also has been very passionate about this point. And that is why he tasked us also to put this book together that Sandra showed earlier, bringing the chefs from the continent to at least illustrate that African gastronomy, there's a lot more to it than what we see, especially the ingredients that sometimes when we are sitting in another country, we cannot have that exact taste. We have to, Chef Samira was just telling us what they were using as an alternative to basil, for example. So all of this, I think, yes, as you say, creating the awareness, and I think more and more the tourism boards are putting emphasis also in their marketing to incorporate gastronomy as one of the key areas to promote the destination. So Chef Samira, I see that you are back. Do you want to pick up from your last comment that you were sharing with us? You have the floor. If you unmute yourself, we'd love to hear from you. You're still on mute. Can we help to unmute her mic, please? She's saying, okay, she just sent a text, her network is bad. It's a pity because we'd really love to hear
Chef Samira, I'm sorry to interrupt you, Alicia. This is Diana from UNWTO Academy. Chef Samira, your microphone is activated. You can speak now. Thank you.
Can you hear me? Because my network is like really bad right now.
Yes, we can hear you.
Like,
Go ahead.
can you hear me?
Yes, please, go ahead. It's a pity. Again, I think for those of you who wants to know more about the work of Chef Samira, probably what you could do is also be in touch with us, because all of the chefs here, in case you want to hear more of what they are doing at a local level, you can always be in touch with them through us. But maybe before just wrapping up this part of the discussion, because it doesn't look like she can really connect, I will make a round and ask all of you, because I was trying to see if there is any other questions in the chat. There is one question though that talks about the cost of, because we've been talking about the importance of having organic food, etc. Do you want to make a comment on the cost of what we call the organic food? Maybe just a comment on that before we ask you to share your final points. Chef Murugan?
Yes, please. It could be a little bit higher, sure, when we started, but not always. If we use this kind of product, we give the maximum effort to produce it. In long run, it won't be much expensive than the product, because it's natural. It will always be natural. Today, it's more a trend. That's why it's more costing. It's more like a trend to use organic food. But we have organic food everywhere at our place, in the garden, our chicken. There's a lot of places we have organic food. So why we don't use this food? We go and buy organic food. We have it all around us. So use this product. That's why I was talking about product knowledge. That's very important. So I'm not agree with when we say organic food is more expensive. No, it's because it's a trend actually to eat by organic. That's only why it's expensive.
Chef Binta, you mentioned earlier that people always go for the alternative, go to the rice rather than the superfoods, the grains. Do you think there's an element of cost there as well, or it's just a habit or just following the trend as well as a reason for that?
I think it's both. When it comes to fonio, I think it's because it's expensive and it's not available. There is less access to it. But there are other things that is just the fact that they don't have knowledge on how to use their ingredients, like things like millet. If you go to the market in Ghana, you find piles of millet in the market, and they only use it one way. They do a porridge in the morning, and most times.
I hear you, Chef Binta.
Hear me?
Now, yes.
Yes, most times for me as a chef, it's challenging because I go there, I buy the millet. It has loads of stones and sand in it because it's been sitting there for so long that because people are not using it, it goes very slowly in the market. I have to go through a whole process to clean it and make it more, usable. So I think it's both. And if we can really focus on using our ingredients and trying to use them when they are seasonal, like Chef said earlier, it's very important. And also getting to know more about our ingredients, learning about ingredients, how we can use them. I think it's a way to go.
And Sibyl, do you think by going through this process of geographical indications would eventually make that product more expensive?
Yeah, well, first, it is sure, but in a way, it's good because it can bring some added value to the stakeholders of the value chain, because people want to buy this specific products. But for sure, usually to register a geographical indication means that the product will cost a bit more, but which is considered in a way as a good thing for the stakeholders of the value chain. And besides, geographical indication represent a guarantee for the consumers, because it is a product which is guaranteed by the public authorities. There are some controls, and so there is some guarantee on the quality of the product.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Definitely, as you say, but we all know there is a saying that we are what we eat. So definitely a lot of people are thinking of not just buying the item off the shelf or enjoying the meal in the restaurant, but as we've seen, really want to know what is the behind process of all of that, and how from having the vegetables from the farmers going through all the value chain before reaching the restaurant is very important. I don't think we have, I don't see any more questions being put through. I don't see any more questions from the audience, but maybe we have still some more time. Chef Murugan, can we start with you? What are some of the key points that you would like to leave with us today following this discussion, where we're talking about the entire value chain from the farm to the table, and also all the indigenous ingredients, as well as how we continue to promote gastronomy, but in a sustainable way, at the same time being cognizant that with the use of innovation, we have to keep up with all of this. So how do you want to share with us your thoughts on this?
Yeah, it's a long discussion. I will make it very brief. So maybe in another forum, we can really debate on it. It's many aspects. Food is essential to our life. Therefore, we should make it good and sustainable way. I think that's very important, because when we focus on this topic, we are talking about health from the environment, the people, and of course, leave no one behind. That's very important. On our post-pandemic, people have realized that we have made a lot of wastage in hotel, in restaurant, after our buffet, all these things. So we have to think of it now, how we can do a buffet, minimizing the waste. So there's lots of techniques that has come through, like the sous vide, the slow cooking, to understand animal and plant cells, how to cook it, just not let the cell explode. So keep everything in it. We eat less, but eat nutritionally. That's very important. Should not, we know now there's not a lot of nutrients remain in our food. So we have to cook it and keep it inside. I don't want it to go and smell. It smells good, that means it's going away. Keep it in the food. So that's very important to keep this food after the pandemic. So how to make buffet, assisted buffet, go more personally. So when we are nearly finished a buffet, serve to the guests personally. How would you like your steak? I make it for you. So if you have it's slow cooking, already cooked inside, all nutritional values. So we just have to give the texture before serving it, and we are minimizing our waste. I think that's also very important. And the food also will look better. The texture, the color, everything will be there. And we will be able to conserve it, and don't minimize energy to cook it, because we will cook in bulk. We will cook in bulk, so we will use less energy. We eliminate a lot of duplication of work. So that's also very important. But we should train our staff. I think that's very important. Lots of training. I will always emphasize on training, because I think that's the power of the future, training. We will produce less carbon. Our chefs train locally, know their product, they know the season. We will, when we are using seasonal product, we don't have to use lots of chemical to make it, lots of things to make it more cost, because it's the season. The food is cheap at the time. So know how to use it and preserve it for future use. With this current pandemic, again, though we have understand that the food system is under threat. So human beings should know, because of the food, we are increasing the possibilities of having more flood, drought, lots of calamity. So we should know, produce only what we need, don't excess. That's also very important. Our menu, all our menu in hotel and restaurant should be based on our product. I can't be in Mauritius and I put lots of product like salmon on my menu. I will have it a small, like some people may want to have it, but I will prefer to have smoked marlin. We have it in the Indian Ocean. We have it around us. So we have to promote this kind of food. The fish that we have in near our island, I can't promote a fish that comes from the cold sea. No, I will promote something I have in Mauritius. I know the taste. I know how to cook it. And it will be an experience for the guests when they will eat it. I will have a lot of story to tell them about it. That's very important. Yeah. And they will go to tell their friend, you know, I was in Mauritius, I have eaten a sacré chien or a bourgeois capitaine fish. It was cooked with citron, I don't know, lots of taste. They will have stories to tell about it. That's very important. And also, in all our celebration, people have always celebrated with food. That is, as you said earlier, food is important in our life. Everything we want to celebrate, we will have food. So let's cook it. Let's have a good food. Good food, nutritional food, well presented, good ingredient. I think that's very important. And of course, make our families, friends, and guests happy when we are host a dinner or something in our place. That's very important. So know what we are cooking. Use conservation techniques, as I said before. So like dehydration. Now we are using a lot of new techniques, not in oven, not in dehydrator, to dehydrate herbs, like maybe curry leaves. We use quite a lot of curry leaves in Mauritius, but we don't have it all season. How, when we have it in summer, to dehydrate it and keep it for future use? Mango, we can make mango powder. We have a lot of mango during the season, it's throw away. So we waste a lot of mango. How we can preserve it? Either green mango or ripe mango, both we can do it. So lots of technique. We have scientists who is working with us to develop this technique scientifically. That's very important. Sous vide, slow cooking, all these are lots of technique that we are developing with our chefs. So everybody is more feel like a scientist now in the kitchen. It's not more a kitchen, you call it a laboratory, a lab. So that's very funny also. We are empowering people, our chefs. We are making the job become more, we are scientists also. We know the basic things of everything. That's very important. We are doing lots of planning with farmers. How we want our vegetable in hotel. So what the size, what the color. So they also, they will, they know how, what quality of vegetable we want. And also the minimize all control on pests that it may have on it. And not everybody plant the same thing at the same time. So that's the type of planning we're trying to do. That everybody is cultivating a different thing. You tomato, the other one carrot. So everybody get from it, leave no one behind. That's also very important. So they can also get their living from it. As we say, we eat also for pleasure. So all having the food cooked professionally with the texture. We human beings, we don't want our food to be flat. We want it with different textures, crispy also. So with these techniques, we will have the possibilities to bring this different texture and keep the taste that maybe you haven't tasted of it when you cook it traditionally. When you cook it at the optimum temperature, understand what temperature we can bring inside. Either it's dry air or humid air, you will see that your food will taste completely different. You will taste the nutrient having in your food.
Thank you so much, Chef.
Thank you.
very, very, very passionate about this topic. You talk about being scientists, but I also see various aspects in a chef as an artist as well, because sometimes when the plate comes to your table, the way you've presented the food also tells a lot, not just about the process, but the artistic flair that comes with it.
Very important.
You've touched really on some really key points here on how to make use of the seasonal products, because it's not only at home, it's sometimes if you're not living in your own country, you want to look for these ingredients and how easily available you can source for it. Training, you touch on, which is key, and we've seen in this discussion that this is one of the points that keeps coming up. Training, raising awareness, and also I like when you say that we really must ensure that we make the full use of all the ingredients and the vegetables that we are using, and to try to minimize the waste. I think there's a big reflection also that's been on this topic, and also the point that you mentioned in regards to basing your menu on what you have. So that also is interesting. Very interesting points that you've shared with us. I'm sure if we could carry on the discussion, it would have been more interesting, but I would like to move to our other panelists. I see there's one specific question that we can address to Sibyl from the audience, which says, what would be needed in terms of skills development and policy measures to have a concrete African geographical indication protection system? If you can briefly summarize on this point and also leave us your last thoughts.
Well, thank you. To have a GI African product in a country, first you must have a legal framework adapted to the GIs in the countryside. You must have a legal framework first, and then one must identify the product which have the potential to be eligible to the registration, and it is mainly products we really have characteristics or reputation which are linked to the geographical area, and also the product of which the production process can be controlled, because there will some controls will be needed in the geographical procedures. And then one has a project can really go to the end if the producers, the stakeholders of the value chain appropriate themselves the project. It must be really them who are in demand, who ask for the GIs. And well, first, even if there is no money, the more important is that there is this will of the local stakeholders. And then, of course, for the first GIs, there is a need, I believe, of international cooperation, but that is quite possible. And FAO is a partner, but there are some others. There are the Organization of African Intellectual Property in Africa, OAPI, and regional and ARIPO, the Regional Institute for Intellectual Property in East Africa and South Africa. And so when there is this national and local will, then I guess it's not that difficult to find the money, because while there is this continental strategy and the action plan to implement GIs, and maybe many partners now are interested in developing GIs in Africa. So I don't know if I answered the question, but I must say that I will end in saying that geographic education represents a lot of assets and advantage. First, it reinforces the power of the small producers when it is done correctly, indeed. And then it allows to preserve biodiversity in boosting some products who could otherwise maybe disappear. And usually it's traditional ways to cultivate, so it has less impact on the environment than industrial way to cultivate. And yes, it preserves the products in the traditional area of production. And so it creates, it maintains jobs, and it can create some, because if there is all promotion of the product, then it can have good impacts on tourism, and it can create jobs and things like that. So I think it's a very interesting tool for territorial development.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much, Sibyl. And I'm sure that for those who are listening in, if they go on the FAO website, they can have a bit more detail in regards to this specific point. I see somebody was interested to know the name of the Cameroonian chef you referred to, but
I'm going to find it. I'm going to
share the link to the video, so you can access it there. Any other last thoughts from you on our discussion today, Sibyl, that you want to share before I move to Chef Samira?
No, I just said, yeah,
okay. Yes. Chef Samira, would you like to share with us any final thoughts? Unfortunately, we've missed a big part of what you contributed. So if you could use this moment to share in a...
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So what I want to say is that, for instance, now in Nigeria, what we're doing is we're following the asset plan, making sure all the food we're doing is healthy and safe. And we're trying to work together with the farmers to make sure that we get the best produce. Like as soon as they come, we give customers out. And secondly, like Chef Moran's mentioned on how you try to reduce wastage. For instance, there's the plantain peel, you can use it to make a curry. There's so many food that you, instead of us waste, even the palm kernel now, the shells, we know that they use it for like some charcoals and everything, how to reduce waste in the economy. We've started doing that process in Nigeria, yeah, also. And also, you also mentioned the fact about learning to hydrate the herbs and everything, so that when they're not in season, we have them, instead of getting chemical produced product that have been preserved for so long and the nutrients is reduced to a certain level. So all I have to say is that we have to work hand in hand with the farmers in the process that we teach them this hydration process. That yes, okay, once you know that you're running low and the season is down, you can hydrate all these products. You can work on
Unfortunately, we again have the same issue. I believe from the conversation, we can understand that Chef Samira shares similarly the opinion to what Chef Murugan was sharing with us earlier. So let's move to Chef Binta. If you can give us your final thoughts on our discussion today, you have the floor, ma'am.
I will close it with, because Chef Muga said a lot of the things that honestly make so much sense, and it's the way to go. All I will add is that I hope people can be more consciously focused and also more intentional about how they live, because sustainable living is the way to go right now. How we handle our ingredients, how we source our ingredients, where we source our ingredients from. One thing I've been doing, it's interesting, you will learn a lot when you go to the market and talk to the market women. Most of the things I've learned about how to use ingredients was because I spared a minute or two to talk to the woman selling the palm oil or the woman selling the weird looking ingredients that I don't know how to use. We should get more curious, ask more questions, explore more, get more adventurous also about food, because that's another problem also in Africa. When it comes to food, we are not adventurous. We are stuck in the old ways. We are not willing to try new things. And that's the only way we can evolve and be more sustainable. So that is what I will add. And also as chefs, let's tell our stories more, because these local ingredients are accompanied by deep-rooted stories. And your guests would want to hear that. It makes the journey of coming to your restaurant or booking you or eating your food more interesting. So let's dive deep and understand our ingredient, the story that goes with it, and live sustainably by your day-to-day activities, one step at a time.
Thank you so much, Chef Binta. I think you leave us with some very strong points that also has been wrapped up by the other panelists as well. I think there are key things that came out today. The point going back to training, the point going back to creating awareness. The last point also you mentioned to understand, take time. Sometimes we are always on the run, but I think with this pandemic also we've relooked at how we use our time as well. So understanding what goes into our plate is very critical, but also using this as a promotional tool is very key in our sector. And as I mentioned, for us, this forms part of a bigger picture of our theme on advocating brand Africa. And with this first initiative, that's why we wanted to keep this alive, especially on the 25th, when we will celebrate our diversity of the African continent. I think it's fitting that we have these different talks each week to raise more awareness also in some ways, because now we have people connecting from all over the world. They're learning a little bit more, not only about our own gastronomy, but also all the stories that comes behind with it. A big thank you to FAO, because you're also doing a lot of work in this regard, not only on the topic that we focus on today. We know that you also do a lot in terms of helping in the process of food security, etc. So it's extensive work that is being done to support also our farmers. So thank you to you all, the chefs, for joining us today. We will continue next week with another topic to be discussed. So you can still join. We will bring other panelists to the session to share more perspectives. But I will end on this note before I hand back over to Sandra, that for us, it's been a pleasure. Always the discussion could be much longer, but we are limited with the time. But at least we give that first aperçu or idea about what we are promoting here and how we want to push forward the African gastronomy, the ingredients, and also understanding the entire value chain. It's not just arriving at the restaurant and enjoying the end product, but understanding from where our local farmers started to produce the item, the different processes it goes through, and finally reaching the shelves, reaching the tables in the restaurant, etc. So it's been a pleasure, and I look forward to seeing you on the next session. So Sandra, I will hand over back to you now. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Elsia. Thank you for taking us through that fantastic journey. Thank you to Sibyl, to Chef Murungu, to Chef Binta and Chef Samira. I think we've learned a lot today about African gastronomy. And just as some of the colleagues were highlighting, it's really for us an opportunity to bring this discussion to the world, but also to Africa. I think Sibyl's point on empowering the producers and the countries to work on issues such as the geographical denominations are critical. I will take this opportunity to just leave maybe a few thoughts on that. I think there's a huge opportunity for us to definitely link better tourism with agriculture and food. Particularly in Africa, we have 190 denominations of origin already, so we can actually work already on those and see how we can bring them forward in the tourism value chain, and for tourists that visit the countries also to know that they exist, because a lot is about what Chef Binta said, increasing the knowledge about the ingredients and the receipts, but then sharing that knowledge and telling the story. Tourists will definitely be willing to pay more for local products, for products which are valued, and this is also the opportunity to bring added value to the tourist that visits African destinations. I also think that was a very interesting point on how do we link this part with culture in terms of festivals and roots. And there was a mention about obviously roots which are very developed already in Europe, such as the wine roots. And there was a question about how do the players work together, and it always has to be on a territorial basis. So it's important that the tourism board and the producers and the hotels and the restaurants can create some kind of governance model where they come together and they can develop common actions, a common brand, common information for tourists, and information that is available also in the touch points of tourists. I think we have an interesting path ahead of us in informing the tourists that visit Africa about the gastronomy. I think everyone knows a lot about nature, about wildlife, but still we have a work to do about communicating to the tourism sector, the gastronomic part, and I think that's a very interesting road ahead of us. Also, I think there was an interesting point about how food has become a lifestyle, and we need to take advantage of that for tourists. Chef Bint has been working very much on nomadic experiences, and I think those experiences, for example, give a different flavor to the people that can visit Africa. So I think from our side, we take a lot of to-dos in our list. These discussions are also very important to feed into the work that UNWTO and other organizations are doing, and obviously to share experiences, as it was also mentioned in the discussion. With that said, I'd also like to mention that we will have in our UNWTO Gastronomy Forum this year a session dedicated to African gastronomy for the first time. We really want to bring this to a wider audience and kickstart this discussion. So I want to thank again everyone that joined us today from the different parts of the world. I've seen people from Africa, but also from Serbia. So very good to see that there's wide interest on this topic. We hope to see you again next week. On the 17th, we will be discussing about talent and education with some of the leading institutions in terms of gastronomy and culinary arts. So we count on your participation next week. And also do visit the UNWTO website if you want to start developing further your capacity to surprise your family with some of the most amazing African dishes. So thank you, everyone. Thank you, our colleagues, Laura, Sarah, and Tijana, also on the background that made this event possible. Thank you, all the chefs. Thank you, Sibyl. And we hope to see you very soon, hopefully with an amazing gastronomy experience somewhere in Africa. Bye-bye, everyone. Have a very good day.
Bye.
Ooh.